What is up, my people? This is video number 3 of this 3-part series. I really hope you enjoyed the first two. I put a lot of effort and a lot of research and a lot of life experience has gone into these little hacks. No, they're nothing super substantial, but they're definitely things that you can use to move your life forward. Um, and in continued education, I've given you these action items. You can go and there's an application to fill out, and you can learn more about programs and things that can definitely help you out. Really bridging this gap, which is what we're trying to do. But in this video, I want to talk about something that's really near and dear to my heart. It's something that um, hindered my growth for many, many, many years. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this, but um, this video is really going to be about anger and understanding kind of where your trigger points are, how that happens, and not only how it happens, but how to tackle it and get ahead of it before it tackles you, right? Because any of us that really deal with massive anger problems will be the first ones to tell you that it can be absolutely crippling. And it crippled me for years. I mean, it ruined almost every relationship that I ever had. It got me into trouble. Uh, it got me into situations that I don't wish on a lot of people. Um, and I fought a lot, and I got into a lot of shit because of it. Because what ends up happening, right? Like the truth is, and you'll hear people say this, but anger is the easiest emotion we have, right? We tend to, it's of all the things, like, getting emotional and doing all this other stuff is a little bit more difficult, but it's so easy for us with a snap of the fingers. We're raging, we're flying, we're going a million miles an hour. And the problem with anger compared to other emotions is it's very hard to bring yourself back to center, because once you go off, once you lose yourself a little bit, it's like this, at least for me, and I'm sure for a lot of you, there's this adrenaline rush that comes in with it, but it's not the type that's really helping you. It's like you're in fight or flight mode. And so it's very hard to stop yourself and kind of get back on the tracks, right? It's like a train derailed. Once the train with that much mass and that much power and that much speed gets off the tracks, it's almost impossible to get it back on. The only way to get the train back on the tracks is to go through the motions of all the things that you're feeling and slow it down. On the other side of it too is this like massive dump of emotions and adrenaline that leaves you, and you're left exhausted. So I have so much experience with this that, I mean, if I would have kept all the cell phones I smashed, and if I kept logs of every single thing I did years ago, probably would have been helpful, because that's exactly what I'm going to talk to you about today. Um, in the early days when I really first started turning myself around from an anger perspective, and I started realizing that I had triggers that used to get me to fly off the handle. Now, I'm not talking about the type of anger that, you get into a little argument, a little tiff, whatever, and you get frustrated and then you walk away. I'm talking about full blown raging, seeing red, Scarface, killing people for no reason type attitude. Now, I never did that. But my point is, like, just like everything kind of just blacks out and you're just going into this mode. That's a place I used to go to a lot. And I'll give you a story, because I think this will help you understand. But I went to a baseball game many years ago with my now wife. She was my girlfriend at the time, and I was drinking. There was alcohol involved, which, that's another conversation for another day. But anger and alcohol are not a good mixture. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir with a lot of you. But truth be told, we got into a little stupid argument, really started off about nothing. And the next thing you know, we're in a full blown blowout argument, screaming at each other in the middle of the baseball stadium. This is a major league baseball game. I'm not going to get into where, it's irrelevant. But I ended up getting tossed out of the game for my own stupidity. This is how stupid and how ridiculous anger can be, and why it's so important for us to dig into our triggers and understand our triggers so we can stop it from happening. So now I created this shitstorm, and now I also find myself kicked out of the game. Clearly, my now wife did not follow me because she was upset. I literally screamed at her for in front of thousands of people. And I get to my car, and to just make matters worse and to explain the type of rage that I felt is I had a Chevy Blazer, an old school Chevy Blazer, and I kicked the back door so hard. I put such a dent in it. I could not open and close the back window anymore. I could barely open the back door. My point in telling you this story, and I'm telling you the shortened version for a reason, but the point of me telling the story is like this is how quickly things get off the rails. Like, and so in realizing that, and then also seeing the impact it had on the relationships that I had in my life, I really started having to hone in on my triggers, understanding them, and now understanding breath, some breath work, taking a step back from the situation, maybe understanding that it's not as severe as I'm making it out to be in my mind. Again, I don't want to, I keep reiterating this in all the videos. This is the third one now, right? But it's like all of this that we're talking about is all leads to mental clarity. Because if I'm angry half the time, or I'm allowing anger to predict a lot of my emotion and a lot of my forward progress, it was holding me back. So now we're adding all these things, right? It was like hacks to become the CEO of you. Well, in reality, even though that's one video, all of these things are categorized underneath that umbrella. You have to master and conquer these things that we're talking about in these videos, because once you do, your life and the way you view life will completely change. I promise you that. So one of the things I first started to do was log when I was going through a situation or a scenario that I would normally put me off into a flat spin. Technology's helped me out tremendously. So like, when I was coming out of high school, they still had flip phones and you didn't have note taking. So I would have had to literally carry a notebook in my back pocket with a pen. But truth be told, now we're living in a world where you literally have, you have access to probably 1,000 different note-taking applications. So there's no excuses in not doing this. But what I started to do was I started to log different situations, different times. And I started with small stuff. Like I didn't go straight to the ragers because I had to figure out how to do this on a smaller level first. We all want to bite off more than we can chew right away. Trust me, if you're in the same situation that I'm describing right now, I know you want to just conquer this thing, but it does take time. So, and it also takes practice, like anything else in life. Like it takes time and it takes practice. Okay. So I would tell you to start with small events. So when you're starting to feel overwhelmed, you start getting those sweats or your heart rate starts increasing and you can feel the blood, or they say the boiling blood. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Start to occur. Take a step back. What's causing it? Write it down. The note taking is going to be huge in your conquest of fixing your mental state. I'm telling you. And like I've said before, like this is all coming from experience. So I want you to understand that. I'm only telling it to you as I lived it. I'm not like educated in this. I didn't go to school for it. I went to the school of hard knocks. I learned the hard way. I've gotten arrested. I've gotten into trouble. I've had fights, scary ones, where I've gotten myself into some pretty peculiar situations. So that's what I'm speaking to you from. But so start taking notes on what you're feeling at that time. And now we're starting to like round out the trigger points. What's causing it? Yes, sometimes it's the thing that you're dealing with. And a lot of times, really what it is all the things I've already discussed with you prior, right? Like the more you remove the negativity from your life, the more you remove negative people from your life, the more work you do on some of the other stuff that I've given you, it's all going to help alleviate these things. Because most of the time, our anger is not triggered specifically by the thing you're faced with at that moment. It's all the things you're already dealing with. And remember when I talked to you about the full suitcase and unpacking it, right? Well, it's the same thing here. Like if you're walking around with this full suitcase and you can't fit anything else in it. So when somebody comes to you with a situation or a scenario presents itself that's not favorable to you, And you have no room to pack that away. You have no room to bury it. Because that's what I used to do. I used to bury my emotions, bury and bury and bury them. Guess what? It's like a volcano. Eventually the volcano erupts. So in this situation, especially at this point in my life where I was already full to the max, my suitcase was packed. I had 3 people I had to stand on it just to zipper it closed. So every time one little thing happened, it created this response of the volcano that I'm discussing. So start working on the things in the other videos. Everything has to happen simultaneously. And it just takes small steps. We're not talking about eating the whole elephant here. We're talking about taking small bites, little things at a time, little progressive movements forward every single day. And now you're catching your triggers. So now if you mix all this together, right? It's like you're working on writing down a list of the negative people and the negative things in your life. And then you start removing one and you remove another one. Now you're lightening up that load. So now when the big scenario hits you where you would normally fly off the handle and lose yourself, you don't, because you have room to pack that away. You have room to take a step back, think, work through the process, understand this thing is not that serious. And most times, 99.9% of the anger I ever exuded out to people was useless and a waste, because it was really for no other reason than for me to just deal with the situation for what it was, instead of taking a step back and being like, all right, this is stupid, or walking away, or something like that. Now, a lot of that's maturity too. I'm not going to lie, but most of it is just unpacking these bags that we carry around with us. We all do. We all have it. We all carry it around. It's heavy. It sucks. But I'm telling you, man, if you follow through on the things that I've talked about in these 3 videos, you're going to see massive changes. You just are. And if you don't, you're just not doing the work. I mean, that's really all it comes down to. And I don't want to call you out, but that's exactly what it is. If you do the work, if you do the things I'm telling you, even these small steps, you're going to see massive gains in your life. You're going to see massive clarity, and you're going to see massive change. I promise you that. That's been this is a very emotional one for me, because I carried this around with me since I was a teenager. I had a lot of issues growing up. But the funny thing about these issues is it's all here, right? And so once I started working on this, which is exactly what we're working on together, I start to realize that I could change. And once you start, and that's the other funny thing, like it's a tumbling effect, right? Snowball effect, however you want to say it. As you start to pick up momentum and you start to see this clarity come through and you start to feel better and you start to feel better about yourself, everything else in your life becomes 10 times better. So listen, this was part 3. I really appreciate you guys for tuning in. I hope you got a lot from it. I know that I put everything I have into it, just like I do everything else in my life. I really just want to give you as much information as I can. Please, I'm asking you, if you need more, you want to get more in depth, you really want to bridge this gap in your life, you really want to fix this, mental block that you're having, you really want to get this mental clarity, fill out the application, reach out to me, let's get on a call. There's so much more to this stuff, but at the low level, this is all really impactful stuff that I know will help you, and I know you'll have gains in your life, and I know you'll be better for it. So I appreciate you. And if you're in the group, please, interact, send me a message, put something out there, get vulnerable. Don't worry about it. I'm here for you. I appreciate you. Hope you have an amazing day and enjoy.